What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This time we are going to be at the USA Grand Prix, and let me tell you, this is a big race for us because we absolutely have to get a good result here. If we don't get a good result, we could be losing out on the World Championship. We're currently 7 points behind Lando Norris. If he continues to extend his advantage, then we could be completely in the mud. If you've watched any of the recent videos, you will know that I have been really struggling for form recently, especially in qualifying. I didn't make it out of Q1 in the most recent Grand Prix in Japan, and in Singapore I struggled. I didn't make it out of Q2 either. Monza, we did make it into Q3, but then we got taken out in the first lap of the Grand Prix. And then we've had a number of DNFs and a number of Q1 and Q2 exits over the last, 10 races or so. The only race that we've had in any recent memory that's gone well for us has been the Austrian Grand Prix, where we finished first. And that was, a long time ago now. That was when Oscar Piastri first came to the team, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was his first race, or it was either that or Pourchaire's last race for us. I think that's the case actually. So that's how drastic the situation has been. Is that in this second half of the season, my teammate Oscar Piastri, who has only recently joined us, has won more races than I have. We need to turn things around now if we want to get any hands on the trophy. So yeah, we have a lot of work to do. P6 in practice, and I'm feeling like we might have a pretty good opportunity of getting a good result in the race itself. Historically, I've done okay around here in previous seasons. I've been quite unfortunate to have a couple of DNFs. Season 1 was around the time that they finally fixed that traction glitch, so I actually did have a decent result here. I had a P11 in a bank marker car, and then I think I definitely had at least one DNF. We've been on the podium here once as well, or close to, and then last year we had that very bizarre wet race where my tyres just completely lost traction compared to everyone else's, and we were lapping about 4 seconds slower than everyone else in the final few laps and fell down to P7. So yeah, it's a bit of an up and down circuit for me. Now we're into qualifying. First lap of 132.8 on some fresh soft compound tyres, and we're going to go again, I imagine, on another set of soft compound tyres to see if we can make our way into Q2. And we're going to need to improve here. You can see that we are 19th at the moment, but we're up by quite a bit. We're about 3/10 up as we cross the line, and in the end that is good enough to put us P8. So we are through, and we're through quite comfortably in the end. I think the gap between the top and bottom cars was actually quite close. So yeah, you can see there that between Sainz in first and Magnussen in 14th, 6/10. And if I scroll down, another thing you will see, Lando Norris is P20. My championship rival has absolutely fucked it in qualifying. Unbelievable. And now we have to capitalize on this. We have to make it into Q3. We have to qualify up the sharp end of the grid and score as many points as we possibly can in this race. Ideally I need at least a podium here to capitalize on this. He's 7 points ahead of us. We got on the podium. We could swing the championship right back in the opposite direction. So now we move into Q2. I'm doing a banker lap on a used set of softs, so I don't really expect much out of this particular lap. And you can see that as we come up to the line, it's a 133.3, over a second behind the Aston Martin of Magnussen. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that we can improve on this time by quite a lot when I switch to a fresh set of softs for the next session. And yeah, you can see now that as we've round the final corner, we're over a second up on that previous time. I think it'll be good enough to see us through. And as we cross the line, it puts us P9. So we just about make it through, but we make it through, and that's all that matters. So yeah, next up is Q3, and we're going to see if we can potentially improve on this. We're only about 5/10 off the leaders of Sainz and Piastri. Was there more time on the table there? I think so. You can see that Leclerc was very narrowly through, only 9,000ths of a second ahead of the Williams of Alex Albon. And yeah, it's an interesting session, but no real surprises in Q2 after the initial shock of seeing both Russell and Norris exit in Q1, and now we are going to see if we can do well here in Q3. Across the line on a used set of softs again, it's a 132.8. Pretty good lap time for a soft run, or a used run, I should say. And now Leclerc goes a 131.4. I would say we're probably not topping that. You can see that as we round the final corner on a fresh set of softs now, we're about 9/10 up, nowhere near that 131.4. It's a 131.9 as we cross the line. In the end, that is good enough to put us P3. So, yeah, still a solid qualifying. Puts us in with a very good shot of getting a podium tomorrow, but Leclerc was uncatchable. Very frustratingly, you can see there, myself and Perez actually did the same lap time, but Perez did it first, and so that meant that he ended up getting the P2 instead. But, yeah, if we'd have taken any corner even marginally better, if we'd have had any marginal improvement through any corner, we could have been looking at P2 there and potentially trying to challenge Leclerc for the lead on the first lap of the Grand Prix tomorrow. But as things stand, it is going to be P3. Maybe we can get up ahead of the guys in front, but you know that I'm not the best starter in Formula One, and you know, I struggle to make up any kind of positions unless I'm on a stronger compound. So the only thing I can think of tomorrow is maybe we'll be starting on the softs when everyone else starts on the mediums, but that would be dangerous in itself since we've used all 4 compounds of softs that we had from qualifying, so we won't have a fresh set for the race itself. But that's okay, and we'll just see what kind of strategy seems like the most realistic for us to do, and try and make our way from there. But yeah, lots to do. We have to try and consolidate this position no matter what happens. I think actually looking at it, there's a chance of rain. There's a big chance of rain, so maybe we'll be starting on the full wets, and who knows what kind of chaos that can throw up. Let's find out what kind of chaos it's going to throw up as we now move into the race.
Welcome once again then to the United States Grand Prix here in the magnificent city of Austin. It was here in 2018 that Kimi Raikkonen delighted the world by taking the top step of the podium for the first time in 114 races. There's always a record to be broken, so what, I wonder, is in store for us here today? It's 10 to the left and 10 to the right. I'm not talking about a line dance, I'm talking about the corners here at the fantastic Circuit of the Americas. Overtaking opportunities into turn 1 and turn 12 at this anti-clockwise 3.6 mile track. But we may well see cars struggle to slow down here today as the wet weather interferes with the low-speed grip. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Robinson, Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, and Oscar Piastri, Joe, Ricciardo, Ocon, and Alex Albon, Magnussen, Lundgaard, Pierre Gasly and Tsunoda, Latifi, Mick Schumacher, Max Verstappen. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Lando Norris, Schwartzman, Stroll. They've taken a grid penalty. Théo Pourchaire and George Russell ends our grid lineup. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Joining me on this very wet day is a woman who very much came prepared. Nice wellies there, Nats. Natalie Pinkham, how would you say the wet weather experience differs between Formula One and perhaps some other forms of racing?
I wouldn't say there's much difference, in all honesty. You know, besides the terrifying closing speeds you find in something like sports cars, with different categories all sharing the same track, driving in the rain is, well, driving in the rain. Of course, the biggest difference is the fact that F1 is open cockpit. On the one hand, they'll be cold and wet without a roof, but on the other, it's much simpler to pull a tear off from a visor than it is to clear a dirty windscreen. So I don't think it's too bad.
We're still in with a chance of winning this title. We need you to push as hard as you can in the 5 remaining races.
I'd say we're in with a decent chance of winning the title, to be honest, now that Norris has bottled this qualifying. If we can find our way, maybe up a couple more positions to second or first even, that would be ideal. But even in third, you know, we're going to be outscoring him by 15 points, which will put us into P18 as we brake way too late there. I said P18. Why did I say that? I meant it would put us 14 points ahead of him. But yeah, some reason I said things totally different to that. And yeah, we overshoot the corner there. I get all out of shape with my language. We overtake Perez, and in the end we have to give him back the place on the formation lap. And as we close down the formation lap, you can see that our rear tyres are getting very, very cold. So hopefully those hold out for the start of the Grand Prix as the rest of the cars line up on the grid, including my teammate Piastri, who did a pretty decent P6. I'm hoping he can maybe make up a position or two off the start to get into 5th or even 4th. And yeah, we're going to be looking for a good start here to hopefully challenge the Red Bull and the Ferrari of Perez and Leclerc respectively. Now we're getting ready to go as the lights come on and the lights go out, and you can see compared to Perez we have had a fantastic start, and actually compared to Leclerc it's not been bad either. And we're potentially going to try and launch it up around the outside at turn 1. We go to his inside, or go to his outside, but to his inside is the Red Bull of Perez. He came back through the corner. Now we're going to try and do the switchback on Leclerc, but we're going to have to hold him off around the outside, and in the end he just gets the position back. No grip around the outside on these tyres, unfortunately, and yeah, Leclerc ends up moving back into P2, but Perez has taken the lead of the US Grand Prix on the opening lap, and we're going to have to do everything we can now to try and settle into a rhythm, make sure we don't lose any more points to the cars behind of Alonso and Piastri. You know, Alonso has been incredibly strong for this entire career mode so far. You know, to think that he's, I think, about 44 or 45 at this point, absolutely staggering. To see that he's still got the level of pace that he's got in that car. You know, he won a Grand Prix back in Season 3, if I'm not mistaken, in, well, I think it was Belgium. I can't remember. Alpine were very strong at some point during Season 3. So, yeah, I will not be taking him lightly as he dives up to the inside of me through this corner, but we managed to hold him off around the outside for now. And, yeah, he's held on. Meanwhile, Piastri's progressed all the way up into P5, and you can see I think Norris has made up quite a few positions off the start. Not quite sure where he is, but it looks like it's about P14 or 15, a lot better than the P18 in which he started after a few grid penalties got applied. He's already got ahead of Verstappen as well, who is not having a great time of things at the moment. He's had quite a few poor races in a row, and this is looking like it might continue down that same sort of pattern. Leclerc and Perez battling for the lead. It looks like Leclerc probably is the slightly faster car, but we'll see if Perez can hold him off. With no DRS in the wet, it really is all to play for at the moment, as the track is undoubtedly going to be drying out over the next few laps. The rain isn't super heavy, but yeah, the wet tyres definitely the correct tyres for the time being as we round the first corner on lap 2. We move now onto lap 6, and you can see that Perez is holding up a bit of a train, which starts with him and goes all the way back to Zhou Guanyu in P7, and we've got Leclerc, myself, Alonso, Piastri and Sainz in the middle of that train. But the track has definitely dried out a little bit compared to the start of the Grand Prix, and I think now might be about the right time that the Inters would start working. I imagine it looks like it's right on that sort of crossover period. That's what I heard from the engineer on the radio when I asked him. I think we're about to ask him again now, and we'll see what the situation is like. Yeah, he says they'll probably have quite similar pace, so I think in order to try and get a bit of an advantage on the cars ahead, perhaps the best thing to do here would be to come in now, and maybe we can jump these guys for the lead of the Grand Prix by going onto slightly faster tyres. So we come into the lane on lap 6. I don't know if a set of intermediates would go all the way to the end, but I'm willing to risk it and try and get some kind of advantage off this. You can see that there is a yellow flag behind. I'm not sure what that is for. We will find out momentarily, I imagine, as we get a good turn in, and hopefully they can rip off these wet tyres and put on those intermediates very, very quickly indeed. And I think there's a Haas. I think it's Mick Schumacher is out of the Grand Prix as his teammate Stroll and Latifi also passed me. His teammate, Stroll and Pourchaire, sorry. His teammate, of course, is not Stroll. His teammate is Schwartzman. That was a confusing sentence. We'll see what happened with Schumacher now. I think it's some kind of mechanical failure. Kind of hard to see from the helicopter angle. I can't see any smoke. It's quite hard to see smoke in the wet anyway, but I'm guessing this is a gearbox failure. I'm not quite sure. And yeah, he ends up having to pull off to the side of the road, and that is you know, the end of his Grand Prix. But yeah, disappointing for him. Haas actually having a surprisingly strong season, but mostly that was true when he had Piastri as a teammate. Piastri was doing amazingly well in that Haas, which is why we picked him up for the second half of the season and sent Porsche packing to Alfa Romeo, where he is now going to probably try and do everything he can to hold us up. We've got a VSC, which is out. I don't think this is going to need to be upgraded to a full safety car. At least I hope not, because that would screw me over in ways you can't possibly imagine. If there is a full safety car, that is going to shrink my advantage, and I think I would be behind definitely that entire train that we were looking at before. I'd probably come out maybe P7 at best, but fortunately we find ourselves not with a safety car, and VSC was all they needed. I'm going to try and go up the inside of Théo Pourchaire now as we move to the inside of the corner. But he manages to hold on. He gets a bit of front wing damage for his troubles, but nothing too major. I checked my own front wing and everything's looking fine as well. And we're going to see if we can hit him back as we come on the run down to the end of this main straight. And I think we're going to be able to do it around the outside here maybe. I think we go a bit deep possibly, but I think it's going to be all right. And yeah, we make the move on him. We have the inside of the next corner, and now we're going to set our sights on Stroll and Schwartzman ahead. Unfortunately, we've kind of been caught up in this train a little bit, which I think has probably minimized any chance we've had of building any kind of advantage over Perez and Leclerc in front. We'll find out for certain in a second, but I don't think that we have made anywhere near the progress that we were hoping for. We're going to try and dive to the inside of Stroll, much like we did on Pourchaire. Stroll saw it coming this time and actually moved out of the way, unlike Pourchaire, who just turned straight into the corner and gave himself a bit of damage for his troubles. And now we're going to try and get ahead of Schwartzman as quickly as we possibly can. He's, of course, a former teammate of ours as well, as is Pourchaire, as is there's someone else on the grid, Lundgaard, in the Alfa Romeo as well. All three of them have previously driven for us. We've had 5 different teammates across the 5 different seasons, and I'm hoping there will be a little bit less chaos in our driver lineup as we move past Schwartzman and move our way up into P14 as it stands at the moment. A lot of drivers yet to pit. Perez is not one of them. He is 6 seconds ahead of us, and based on that evidence, I would say that this undercut attempt has done anything but work. And yeah, a bit of a strategy failure from me. Perhaps we might still be in P3 if I'd have done it at the right time. We'll see where we come out in relation to Piastri, who's in the pits now, but I would wage to say it is not going to be where we want to be as we now try and get ahead of the 2 Williamses, and Gasly and Piastri has come out the pits significantly ahead of us, as has Leclerc as well. So yeah, we find ourselves a decent chunk off the front runners as we set the fastest lap, moving into lap 11 now. We get ahead of Norris and Tsunoda, Magnussen too, and Sainz and Alonso have made it past me. I don't think Joe and Lundgaard have pitted yet. Those are the only 2 drivers who are yet to pit, and that means that we are probably going to be P6. I would have to guess. I don't know where Joe is. We'll find out for certain when he pits, but yeah, it's not looking great at the moment. We're going to see if we can try and close down Sainz ahead of us, but I think it's going to be harder than to just say that we're going to do that, because now we're on sort of equal tyres. You know, he's not in a slow car, but he has a bit of an issue into that next corner. We almost go into the back of him, but we managed to muscle our way through in the end and up into P7. So yeah, a very difficult situation for us, but nothing too problematic as we make our way around the sort of twisty technical section. And you can see now as Joe and Lundgaard have pitted, we're up into P5. So yeah, not quite back where we started, but we're not too far off. And if we can continue closing down Piastri and Alonso, then perhaps we can find ourselves back in P3 where we started in this race. So yeah, unfortunately that gamble on that strategy didn't really pay off for us, but you know, it is what it is, and hopefully we can continue making good progress as we move into the final 12 laps of this race or so. You can see that the gap remained pretty static on that lap, but yeah, I'm not too far away from them, and anything can happen. You know, with only 10 laps remaining, the track is going to continue drying out. I think maybe there will be an opportunity to go onto softs at the end of the race, and I'll definitely take that. You know, when we gamble on strategy, all we can do is gamble on more strategy, and we're doing just that on lap 22. We come into the pits for a set of softs. They use softs, of course, but hopefully they're only 1 lap used, and we'll be able to make them work till the end of the Grand Prix as people continually set fastest laps. No doubt in my mind that the track is drying out, and hopefully we can have some pretty instant pace on these soft tyres. They will be cold, and the line will still be wet, so it won't be easy. But if we can get on top of them quickly, as we come out in a pretty nice air gap there, about 5 seconds ahead to Sonoda, then yeah, it could be smooth sailing for us, and potentially we could find ourselves still on for a podium finish in this race if our pace is to be believed on these soft compound tyres. But there's a lot to do before that happens. You know, we've got a lot of places to make up. I think quite a few of these guys should be pitting, hopefully all of them. And yeah, if we can find some good pace on them before that happens, then maybe, just maybe, we might be able to find ourselves into the podium positions, maybe even sneaking the final position on the podium in P1. Who knows? Now we move up to the end of lap 24, start of lap 25, and you can see that some cars are starting to come in. Verstappen, Tsunoda, Gasly, Albon, and my teammate Piastri, who once again comes out ahead, as has Sergio Perez as well. Norris hasn't pitted yet, and at this point I was starting to get a bit concerned. You know, I was thinking, well, if you're not pitting now, surely you won't be pitting at all. But you know, patience pays off as Sainz and Magnussen come into the pits as well. And yeah, there's I'm trying to think. So Norris is in P4 at the moment. He hasn't stopped. And now you can see that as we pass Leclerc, who decided to pit very late in this race, Piastri gets ahead of Norris there, and we try and go for an opportunistic move as well, and we make our way round him. So yeah, only 2 cars in front of us yet to stop now. I don't think they will, unfortunately. Those 2 are Joe and Alonso. Alonso now leads this Grand Prix, with Joe in second, on course for his first podium finish with Mercedes in almost 2 years at the team. You know, it's hard to believe that it's almost been 2 years since Hamilton retired and Joe took that spot. He hasn't really delivered on the promise that he showed early in his career, but this could be a very surprising podium for him in a very turbulent Grand Prix. But you know, you have to be in it to win it. There are lots of drivers that did the same strategy as him, but it's not paying off for, such as Lando Norris, who finds himself down in P7 at the moment. You know, not a bad strategy considering he started in P18, but he's now been passed by a Williams of Alex Albon, who's made his way up into P7, and I would wage to say that there are going to be more drivers who are going to try and attack him over the course of this lap. You can see that he has an Aston Martin and AlphaTauri behind him as well. We probably not going to catch anyone else, as Théo Pourchaire sets the fastest lap of the race, so that's quite impressive from him. And yeah, I think this is going to be Alonso's second win since 2013. He obviously had that surprising win in Belgium as well, where he picked up 25 points. That was in 2024. And here in 2026, it looks like he's going to be winning the US Grand Prix in very shock circumstances. But yeah, the consistency of this man to still be delivering solid performances race after race after race is something to be beheld. I don't know what the past tense is, as Perez and Piastri cross the line, and I follow them up to take P5 in this Grand Prix. And yeah, the result not quite what we wanted. I was hoping we would at least be able to get a podium. Norris gets driver of the day. He came home in P10, so we do retake the lead of the Drivers' Championship, but not by very much.
As we wrap up yet another incredible Grand Prix weekend. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out of the track was: speed. It sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Here come today's winning drivers, and what a race this was. This is a team that knows success very well in F1, and they're just itching for even more. Congratulations to the Alpine team for their excellent win today.
The thing you have to consider about this as to why it's so surprising is that Alpine are one of the worser teams on the grid at the moment. They haven't really been able to get on top of the most recent regulation change, which means they're sort of like 7th or 8th in the standings. Alonso qualified 4th off the back of that. That is outstanding in itself, and he was right there on a perfect strategy. It's absolutely commendable what they've done for both him and the team.
So let's review the updated drivers' standings. Robinson takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship. So then, Natalie Pinkham, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
I think for driver of the day, I'd probably pick Lando Norris. He lived up to every inch of his reputation today, and I think he'll be going home, quite rightly, a bit proud of himself.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. The current leaders continue to extend their lead at the top. Meanwhile, Alpine move up the table with another strong performance this weekend. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So yeah, that was a very surprising result, all things considered. It would have been P3 had everyone decided to go onto the softs at the end. But, you know, that was the winning strategy, and clearly Alpine and Mercedes worked that out for their drivers, that they could get Joe and Alonso into those positions. And, yeah, fair play to them, I guess. You know, we go ahead of Lando Norris in the championship, albeit by 2 points. So we're going to need a good result next time out at the Mexican Grand Prix. It is a circuit that I typically do quite well at, so I'm hoping I can continue my my rich run of form in that circuit. We've had a couple of victories there now, I believe. At least one, I know that. And yeah, I think we've got this Constructors' Championship in the bag, which was the aim of this season more than anything. But yeah, I still want to win that Drivers' Championship, see if we can do the double this season and match Charles Leclerc. Meanwhile, Norris is also trying to match Charles Leclerc. Both me and him are fighting for our second World Championship. He claimed it back in 2024. Leclerc claimed it in 22 and 23, and it was myself in 2025 that finally got my hands on the championship trophy. But yeah, we have still a lot to do. We got 4 more races. They're all races I enjoy, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to win. We've also got to worry about things like reliability and stuff like that. And I definitely am not having anywhere near the level of dominance that I was having at this stage in the season last year. You know, we were getting pole after pole after pole after pole. We were getting so many wins where we shouldn't have been. We were getting podiums even in races we weren't grabbing wins. You know, the USA Grand Prix was about the only race that I finished last season in the second half that I didn't finish on the podium. So yeah, that was sort of an outlier on that occasion. But this time, you know, P5 is one of the best results we've had in a little while. So so yeah, I can't be too upset with that, really. And yeah, another thing I noticed is that I'm pretty sure last season myself and Leclerc both scored over 400 points. I would wager to say no one is scoring over 400 points this season. In fact, I don't even think it's possible anymore. Myself and Norris are still only on about 250. So yeah, a lot closer this season, and the standard from the top drivers this season is not quite what it was last year. Yeah, you know, there's a lot closer between the entire field, I would say, and hopefully we can maybe try and stretch our legs a bit in these final few races. But yeah, you're going to have to wait and see whether we are able to close out this championship in the final 4 races, as we next time are going to be in Mexico for one of my favorite races on the calendar. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.